This person, who asks to be anonymous, says this: how do you handle a 30-year-old son on the Asperger's end of the autism spectrum, who has in his mind that masturbation is not wrong? It's something devised by the church long ago by a controlling mindset. And he won't go to confession about it because he's not contrite and doesn't intend to stop because it's not a sin, he says. He won't go to confession until he actually intends to stop. He's straight, lives at home, has girls who are friends, but never has a girlfriend, stubborn as a brick wall, and okay, fair enough. Well, it's my experience with people who are on the end of the sort of autistic spectrum or Asperger's end of the autistic spectrum, that they tend to be very intelligent, and it sounds like this person, your son, is, because he's saying things to you like, this isn't a sin, it was devised by the church, I'm not going to confession if I'm not actually sorry. Fair enough. So, okay, why not have a good old-fashioned argument with him? And by argument, I don't mean a heated conversation. I mean give reasons to believe that something is true. And so you could say to him, well, what do you think a sin is? You could use some of that Socratic method with him. What is a sin? And see if he can give you an answer to that. And you could say, okay, you say it's something devised by the church. Why do you think that the church would have devised this? And when do you think the church did devise this? Is there a specific time period? You know? And you could offer an argument. You could say, all right, how about this? When we look at biological functions within humans, they have a teleology. They have an end to them. So you might say, what is the biological end of eating? Right? It's not pleasure, because if you received no pleasure from eating, you would still eat. My granddad lost his sense of smell and taste as a younger man. He often didn't enjoy eating, at least not in the way that we might, and yet he continued to do it. Okay, so it's not pleasure, you know. Pleasure might be a motivation to eat. Sure, it might be a reward for eating. But I think from a strict biological point of view, you would say the end of eating is nutrition, right? Fair enough. Okay, so if that's the end of eating, then to subvert that end through making yourself vomit after you eat, or some other sort of perversion in eating, that would be unreasonable. And that's maybe a kind of naturalistic, philosophical definition of sin. I mean, sin is also unreasonable. It's not acting in accord with reason. Okay, so what's the primary end of the sexual act? What's the biological end of the sexual act? Well, it's procreation. It's the union of the spouses, the good of them coming together. Okay, well, just like you can pervert the act of eating, you can pervert the act of sex. And masturbation is a clear way of doing that, because you get neither of those two ends that we just spoke of, the procreative and the unitive. So you might consider going down that end. All right. Ben says, I can speak from personal experience trying to quit for a few years. The thing that finally got me to quit was the statistics about sexual trafficking within the porn industry. That was what finally woke me up to say enough is enough. I don't have a question, but just list all the stats you can about the evils of porn. Maybe you'll reach someone else like me and inspire them to quit. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that when we're trying to help someone realize that pornography is wrong, we should attack pornography from all angles. We can show what it does to a person's neurology. We can show how it leads to sexual dysfunction. We can show those women who've come out of pornography and have recounted horror stories about what it's like. We can show how it leads to marital breakdown, because I think different arguments are going to work for different people. And certainly pointing out how people can have negative experiences through, say, sexual violence or exploitation is one way to do that. I'm just going to share a couple of statistics here that you could check out on fightthenewdrug.com. Sex trafficking is a commercial sex act that is brought about by force, fraud, or coercion, or when someone under 18 is involved, right? That's the definition of sexual trafficking. And in my experience, chatting with people who've been in the sex industry, they would say that it was some kind of force or fraud or coercion that got them into that. Let's see. In one survey, underage sex trafficking victims, 63% said that they'd been advertised or sold online. According to one report on domestic minor sex trafficking, survivors indicated that they were sometimes advertised on porn sites. Research suggests that frequent porn consumers are more likely to victim blame survivors of sexual violence. While most porn consumers are generally unconcerned about the potential mistreatment of porn performers, about 70% of porn consumers who do learn about mistreatment from the porn industry take some form of action to combat it, including changing their porn habits. And that sounds like you, by the way. So, and these statistics that are found here on fightthenewdrug.com are all they're all documented, so you can check this out for yourself. Reports show that those who sexually abuse children often show their victims porn to groom them or normalize sexual behavior. Pornography is the third most common form of sex trafficking, according to cases reported to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. So I would recommend, if anyone's interested in learning more about this, go to fightthenewdrug.com and check out their articles. And as I say, they're all meticulously documented there as far as the footnotes.